Hello, and welcome to this little video on mindfulness practices with a focus around some tips and tricks around meditation. Because meditation is something that has been around for a lot longer than we have had it as a buzzword in society and our culture as it is today. Everyone today knows, that meditation as a buzzword is supposed to be a useful tool for mindfulness and for de-stressing and for calming our minds and all the millions of things that it's kind of said to be for. But what I think sometimes gets forgotten is that there are as many ways to meditate as there are colors in the crayon box, and more, in fact. So, if you try to get into meditation with a very strong idea of what that is, then you kind of oftentimes, depending on your personality, but oftentimes set yourself up to fail before you've really begun. And I think that's what I really want to speak into a little bit today, is giving us some sort of easy tools and tricks around how do I develop a better mindset, really, a better headspace around what meditation looks like for me, so that I set myself up to succeed rather than set myself up to fail. So the first thing is to remember that there are many, many different ways of meditation, and you've got to find the one that works best for you. You've got to kiss a few frogs along the way and find what works for you. Also, as you develop through your meditation practice, you might find that you go through different stages and phases. And sometimes you're into one way of meditating and it's working pretty well for you, and then something changes and you want to try something new. Don't get locked into a way of a pattern. Oh, my hand's wet from my steaming tea. Don't get locked into a pattern that you don't feel like you can shift from. Saying that, with meditation, a lot of the teaching is to have a consistency, to have a way of doing it, a time of doing it, and that sort of thing. So let's start with asking ourselves, if I were to set up a meditation practice for me, what do I feel would be achievable? So remember that it's called a meditation practice, and that means you have to practice it. You have to, first of all, do it, because if you're not doing it, then you're not going to achieve the benefits. And it is a practice because it's not something that you start perfectly on. And you will have good days and you will have bad days, no matter for how long you have been meditating. So now you're asking yourself, what are the best ways for me to incorporate meditation in my life? Now, if you've never meditated before, I would think maybe, and you're a very busy person and you're not great at sitting down for a long time, I would think don't start maybe even every day. Give yourself something achievable. Start with, I'm going to meditate 3 times a week or once a week. I'm going to meditate 3 times a week for 3 minutes at a time, or I'm going to do 3 10-minute meditations in the week, and I'm going to make that consistently on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever. You're going to think, what would the formula for me, my lifestyle, my reality actually be? Because in an ideal world, we might take a more traditional stance on meditation and say, well, I'm going to do 20 minutes of meditation twice a day. Now, that's very good in theory, but sitting in silent mind meditation for 20 minutes twice a day is not going to work for everyone. And it's actually quite a difficult thing if you're first starting meditation. So I might recommend for myself, certainly it was easier to start with guided meditation and visualization techniques in order to let somebody else guide me through an imagery. I now guide those for other people, but I still like listening to other people's as well. So it's like, let somebody else's voice take me out of my monkey mind and let me follow somebody else's stream. I build into that. I learn to follow. I allow things to float up and down. Maybe I doze off. Whatever it is, I am finding a practice. So let's say you did 3 10-minute guided meditations a day and you think that's achievable, and you say to yourself, well, when best would that be? I would maybe love to set my day up by starting the day with a meditation. If you were to say have a busy morning routine, maybe you've got to get yourself and a family ready for school, and you're waking up at 6 a.m. and you're like, well, I don't know, if I had to wake up earlier, I'm exhausted, I don't know if I could do that. you make that decision. Am I going to find it more easier to wake up at 5:45, give myself that meditation and then start the day? Or is it more realistic for me to try and do it in my lunch break? Or is it more realistic for me to do it before bed when everybody is asleep and it's now my time? What would it look like for you? And I think this is really important that we learn to personalize how the practice looks for us. And you're not failing at it because you're not doing it in the conventional or traditional way. I think it's so important for us to start to ask how we tick, and this is a lot of the tools that I incorporate in astrology and mindfulness. A lot of it is first unpacking the me in the space. If you have a very, very busy brain, expecting it to be silent, I mean, none of our brains go silent immediately, but you might find it harder than somebody who's quite a naturally quiet Zen person. So then you've got to take that into account. You can't start beating yourself up about the fact that you can't quiet your mind like the next person. If you're somebody who is very sort of stuck in a slow rhythm pattern of thinking, and you find that you prefer silent mind, not having a guided meditation because you actually like to sit with your thoughts, or maybe you prefer the guided meditation because you want somebody else's kind of imagery to give you a little more insight into your own imaginal world because you're not used to it. If you find that because you're naturally quite grounded, for you, a walking meditation is something you really enjoy, where you're not less sedentary, but you're mindfully going for that walk, maybe a meditation in your ears, or maybe music in your ears, maybe without lyrics. So you could have either, chanting or just binaural beats or frequency music or something, so that there is it's not just I'm going to walk the dog. I'm in a meditative, contemplative place. If my dog can aid me on that walk, not be yanking my arm off, then the dog can come too. But otherwise, this is a walk about me. This could be a 10-minute, this could be an hour. Maybe you just say that my meditation practice is walking over the weekend when I have time. This is really important because if you try meditation, and I've seen it so many times, and people just say, I can't meditate. And that's not true. We can all meditate. But they say that because they try to meditate in a way that is incongruent with who they are naturally. However, we also can learn new things. So don't stop at the first sign of a trial. That's also part of our meditation practice. Your mind doesn't come to stillness like that. Your mind has a lot of things bumping up and swirling around and racing on your train of thought. And what tends to happen is as you sit in meditation, whether it's guided meditation and you are distracted from your own mind by the voice, or whether it's silent mind and you just hear your own busy brain nonstop, either way, you will find that slowly you start to think a little less, or you start to be able to follow one train of thought rather than many, or not even following many, being scattered by many. And that brings you into a level of stillness, not necessarily stillness. And that's fine. If you walk away from your meditation going, I feel a little bit more centered, or a little bit more grounded, or even a little bit more clear on something that's been bothering me. So you might find your meditation, you don't leave it feeling all calm and peaceful and zen, and maybe you leave it feeling like overwrought by a certain fear that has risen to the surface and come into focus in your mind, rather than being this peripheral irritating mosquito that you're fearful and anxious, but you don't know what you're dealing with. And it swims around into the front of your mind, and you go, oh my word, I now see what I'm so afraid of. And you wake up from that meditation space and you're just filled with fear and overwhelm and disappointment that that's a fear, or anger about whatever it is that you're filled with, but you have that clarity. And then tomorrow, or in a few days, or when you sit for your next meditation, you bring that fear back in and you say, let's get to the root cause of this. Let's look at it. Let's listen to it. Or you just have a very mindful practice of following that through the day. You've done that meditation. It's left you feeling a little bit icky, because something uncomfortable came up, and then you sit with that uncomfortable thing for the next day or week or month or year until you begin to figure it out, get comfortable with the uncomfortable, kind of like take away some of its power over you and its fear, because you kind of see it now. And it's like, I see you, fear, and you're not comfortable, but you're there. I can't deny the fact that you're there. And just slowly working with recognizing that you're not always walking away from a meditation in a better place. You are, but it might not always feel like you are. So whatever shows up for us, whenever it shows up for us, is the right time. And if we set ourselves up for this little pattern of creating our own way of meditating and then not expecting it to be some idealized, popularized thing of what we should experience after meditation. No two meditation experiences are alike. And I think the more you get to know yourself, the more you will get to know how best for you to practice. But if you're unsure, if you think, well, hey, I don't know myself yet, that's a whole other conversation. And please do check out my links because I can help you on that journey as well. But if you think, I don't know myself yet, that's also something that you're beginning to uncover. I know that I like to meditate in the morning, or I know that I don't like to meditate in the morning. And learning what you don't like is as important as learning what you do. Learning what works well for you is as important as learning what doesn't. And then always come back around, because sometimes what didn't work for you last year might begin to be amazing for you now. So never think that's it. I can't sit in silent mind meditation. Maybe that's not the place you start. But maybe a few years down the line in your practice, you say, let me give this another go. And then you have this mind-altering best experience of meditation you've ever had, which you wouldn't have if you got stuck in this pattern of, I can't meditate, or I can't meditate in that way, or I can't sit still and comfortably for 20 minutes. And another thing is, when you get told, you should sit in stillness in meditation, that is an absolute truth in so many styles of meditation. But if for you, that's sitting in stillness, and there's a reason for that as well, which is quite powerful, but we're not going to get into that for now. But just to say, if you're sitting there and you're saying, I get so uncomfortable in my body and I get all shifty and itchy and I am not going to do this anymore because of that, rather allow yourself to adjust and sit with the meditation rather than not. So I always feel like, especially in the early stages of beginning a meditation practice, let yourself go just outside of your edge, but not so far outside of that comfort zone that you don't maintain a practice of sorts. Mindfulness is about kind of consistent awareness, and slow, gradual change is brilliant. Sometimes it's bursts of insight, sudden shifts, 180-degree turns. That's great too, but it doesn't have to be. Sometimes it's 1 degree. Over time, that adds up. So those are a few of my big tips. So number one, let's just summarize a little bit. Number one would be start to get to know you and figure out, how best can I develop a consistent, even if it's not daily, a consistent practice of meditation? And then secondly, where can I taper that and temper that for myself? If I'm doing a morning meditation, do I want that to be a physically active meditation? If I'm doing an evening meditation before bed, do I want that to be a guided meditation? How does this work best for me in my lifestyle? Because we're all really busy. And that can be an awesome excuse, but I don't want you to let that be your excuse. I'm too busy to meditate. I'm too busy for mindfulness. There really is no such thing, but it's easy for us. We all do it. So just watch yourself with that. And then just generally finding those different little practices and being flexible to change. Let me try this. There's a level of consistency and there's a level of flexibility. And this is a line that you walk. As you find pushing past that edge, oh, I went too far past that edge and I can feel that I want to just quit, then just backtrack a little into the comfort zone, work there for a little while, and then test it out again, stretch a little beyond that edge. There is a different way to meditate for you if you haven't had success so far, and not every meditation is going to leave you feeling all zen like Buddha under the tree. That is not every story. Some meditations will leave you that way, some meditations won't. Nothing is for nothing. Whatever shows up for you is part of your soul's journey to find more balance and more peacefulness. And remember, balance is not a static state. We don't find balance and then be all like, whoa, we've made it and we're done. Now I'm balanced. No, it would be kind of easy if that was the case, but maybe not so much fun, not such an adventure. So as we step into this adventure of being a little bit more mindful and finding a meditation practice that works for me, allowing myself to grow and evolve through it, but also finding a level of consistency, not judging myself for doing it wrong, and not judging and criticizing other people for their techniques. Maybe even ask around, hey, what do you do? How does it best work for you? And then you might try other people's techniques and then go, wow, who knew? I would have judged that, but actually it worked really well for me. Or that's interesting, but that's not my way. Just finding these new little pockets to slip into in mindfulness where it takes us out of judgment and puts us more in curiosity. So I hope this has been helpful, and I look forward to any comments, likes, shares, and subscribes that you may want to add to this video. And I will be back again in the not too distant future with more tips and tools for you. Thank you so much for your time.